The Fellowship takes shelter in Nockmar while struggling to save Grayden, but the castle is cursed and playing tricks on their minds. Will they survive? Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I'm recapping and reviewing Season 1, Episode 4 of Willow. Although Willow has concerns, the group heads to the castle of Nockmar for shelter so they can find a way to heal Grayden from his possession. They restrain Grayden with chains, and he tells them that the dark magic will take hold eventually, so they must kill him. Kit agrees with that idea, but Borman and Jade tell her that it is not as easy to kill a person that isn't fighting back. Grayden says that he has experience with dark magic, so he knows that killing him is the right decision to make. Elora doesn't want to accept that so quickly, and asks Willow to help. Grayden speaks up about the way Willow defeated Bavmorda back in the day, and he replies that it was an almighty effort to defeat the sorceress. He says that if there is a way to cure Grayden, then he knows where it might be. They find a book called the Malatrium, which consists of the rituals and spells practiced by the Order of the Worm. They find the instructions for a spell called the Purgation of Namshub, and he tells them that he needs Elora's magical help and the right ingredients. The group begins collecting the various items required to make a salve, which they will use on Grayden, while they read the Purgation aloud, and hopefully this is going to cure him. Meanwhile, Borman and Jade are on the lookout for the Gels, and Willow insists that no one goes into the high tower. Jade is still hurting from having to kill Ballantine, and she is still a little mad at Kit as well. Borman is walking around the castle when he sees a huge door that looks like a vault. He tries to pick the lock, but is unsuccessful. Kit also has a frosty dynamic with Elora, and they're always on the brink of having an argument. Eventually, Willow is going to cut open Grayden's shirt for the ritual, and they see that his body is covered in scars. He tells them that he was sick with something severe while he was younger, but he isn't sure what it was and isn't allowed to talk about it openly. Willow begins the first steps of the ritual, and it's very painful for Grayden. Borman is looking for a way to get into the vault door, while Kit still thinks killing Grayden is the best choice. And Borman suggests that she's behaving much like her grandmother at this point. Elora and Willow are chanting one of the incantations when Grayden hallucinates the image of his father chastising him for a past mistake. And next to him he sees what looks like his older brother, giving him words of encouragement. Kit is headed towards them with one of the ingredients they need, and she is sidetracked when she hears voices and sees a tapestry depicting the story of Bavmorda being corrupted by the crone, because Bavmorda has the blood of the Six running through her. Borman runs into Jade on the walls of the castle, and she bears her feelings to him. He sees her grieving and consoles her, making her hug him tightly, and bursts into tears. The ritual continues, and suddenly Grayden begins talking with Airck's voice. Willow tells the other that is the Leash's doing to distract them, and Kit walks out because she can't bear to see this. He then turns to Willow and alludes to some secret the sorcerer is keeping, and when Elora questions him, he tells her that she needs to focus on the ritual, and that if she can't, she's better off leaving. The castle begins to mess with all of their minds as Borman imagines that Lux Arcana was stolen from him. Kit gets lost within the halls of the place. Jade pictures her dead parents and the man that killed them, while Elora sees her mother and how she died. Kit and Jade run into each other and realize that the castle is turning them around. Borman accuses them of stealing the Lux from him, but they get distracted by something happening in the high tower. Meanwhile, Elora goes back to the main hall where she sees Grayden free and looking fine. He says that he was cured, but the sickness passed on to Willow, and they must save him. He says that they should think like the Lish to figure out where Willow would have gone, and they immediately think of the high tower, forgetting what Willow had said earlier. When they get there, Grayden reveals that he's still possessed, and begins the ritual to send Elora's soul to a place where she'll be stranded forever. Willow shows up just in time, and Grayden shows Elora the truth about how Bavmorda was vanquished. He says that she was a victim of her carelessness, and Willow didn't have anything to do with it. He momentarily gets the upper hand and asks Willow how he's going to win now, and he says he'll achieve it in the same way he did last time, with his friends. Right then, Kit, Jade, and Borman walk into the room. They take down Grayden, and Elora is getting back to her senses. She doesn't have much self-belief, but Kit tells her that her seed-growing spell actually worked in the forest, that she saw it, so that she does have power to help Grayden. She approaches him and literally sucks the sickness out of him and dispels it. The clouds part and the rain stops as the sun shines brightly on them, as Grayden thanks her for saving his life. The group leaves Nockmar, and Kit asks Willow about the blood of the Six. He tells her all about it and says that Elora has shown some proficiency with magic, giving them a good chance of success. Borman finds the Lux back on his belt and realizes it was all just an illusion. We are going to see that as our group leaves Nockmar, we are going to see some bad guys that are going to be following them. With all that happening, we're going to skip to Airck waking up in a cell with the door open. He heads out to see himself in empty ruins. As he heads towards the highest point to find out more, we get to look over the ruined city, and the episode ends. All right, now I want to move on and just throw some thoughts out there and give my reaction to this episode of Willow. I'm going to say, just to start, that I did consider this episode to be a little better than the first three, and especially the last episode. And so I want to talk about a few things that stood out, a thing or two that I didn't think was quite as good. The first thing is the lighting in the episode. I complained about this, I think, in the last episode, maybe a little bit in the first two, is that the lighting is so dark and dreary and it's hard to tell what is going on. I thought they did a much better job in this episode with the cinematography and the lighting and telling the story, that you could sort of see the surroundings and see what was going on. I mean, you have these sets and it looks like some of them are possibly practical, but you don't get to see them because of the darkness in the prior episodes. So I was very glad they seemed to lighten it up a little bit. It did lighten up with the mood as well. It didn't seem to be quite as dark. The practical effects for the possession of Grayden I thought was very good. I enjoyed those. The scarring on his body, it just makes you wonder what happened to him. And of course, there were some hints of some possession. He did apparently toss his brother out of the tree. We had known that the brother fell out of the tree from earlier in the story, but at this point, it sort of shows Grayden was responsible for that. I really like the setting of Nockmar Castle. It had that darkness, creepiness, everything it needed to make it a cool set. And so I really enjoyed that for this episode. Also, when we talk about Grayden, I love his character. He is my favorite character in this story so far. He sort of seems to get the idea. He knows what's going on, and he has some good comebacks. He's got a little bit of humor with him. He's serious, but he's someone that you don't really classify as your hero. And it looks to me like that's sort of what they're building him up to be, is a hero in all of this. And so I'm looking forward to that. And so I'm going to enjoy seeing where they take his character and see what the explanation for apparently his possession was. Now, just a few other things to throw on there as well. And this one is definitely a negative, and that is there's too much, to me, exposition. There's too much explaining going on. It seems like every line that Warwick Davis has as Willow is some type of exposition going back to the original film. We don't need any of that anymore. That should have all been covered early in the first couple episodes, and now we just need to be growing this world and getting into our adventure. And I don't feel like that's what we are doing. And part of that is, I just think the writing is trying to satisfy so many people, so many different groups of people out there, that they really have not written a good story. And that is, to me, the number one rule of any type of writing books, writing movies, writing series, is that number one, you have to have a good story. Your characters can be great, your characters can be diverse, but if the story they're in sucks, then you're going to have some issues. Write the story first, make it good, blood and fit your characters in, and you're going to be okay. And I don't think they are doing that in this series so far. And along with that, this is really supposed to be this big, imaginative, fantasy, blockbuster series. And it all feels very small to me so far. It doesn't really feel like they've traveled that long or that far. I think they need to do a better job of getting that message over. And then along with the writing, we don't need a joke all the time. I swear it seems like every couple of lines, every scene, there needs to be some type of humor or joke or something added in. And it's just not needed. You know, there's a balance in movies and series of being very serious and then throwing in some humor every now and then to lighten the mood. But it just doesn't fit in a lot of the series so far. There's just way too much going on. So there are just lots of story issues and writing issues, I think, in this whole series. Not so much exactly in this episode, but in the whole series. Now, I will say, last episode, I mentioned the performance of Warwick Davis, and as we get a little more of him, I'm going back to the writing here. I think Warwick Davis is charming, he's fun, he's charismatic, but he's trying to deliver these big ideas and expositions and all this history, and they're not really playing, I think, to Warwick Davis's strength. And, you know, that is appealing to that charm and charisma and everything. And I think they need to do a better job of looking at why his character is interesting in the first place. And then the other thing I'm going to say, and this is actually negative as well, I guess, is that what are they doing with Elora Danan? I mean, she's supposed to be learning magic. She basically sucked the bad life force out of Grayden. She grew a tree earlier on, or a bush. I think they need to be developing her a little bit more. And the character, I think the actress is doing fine with what she's got. But it's something that, again, I hope they work at developing her a little bit more. And of course, I am very into the city where that we find Prince Airck and what's going on with him, why he basically has been let loose. And he goes in and sees the big city, and it is the ruins of the city. I am very much into that and looking forward to it. And of course, there's got to be some type of confrontation between the group and the bad guys that we were shown as they were leaving Nockmar. And so with that, I am going to give a grade for this episode. And I did think this episode was better than the last. So I'm actually going to give it a C+. A lot of the things that I had for negatives are aimed more at the series as a whole. They've got to do better in the writing room. They've got to show why they have these characters in their actual series. And if they will do a better job of that and get to these characters' personalities, the grade will go up. That's why I think I like Grayden so much. He's the only one of the group whose personality we're actually getting to see and seeing some growth. You know, he was supposed to be this sort of sniveling little prince, and he's turned out to sort of be one of the bravest ones of them all. And so I think that's why I like his character and not really caring for any of the others. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this recap and review. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.